Evening, folks, and unfortunately, it's another day, another loss for Newcastle United. And I happen to agree with Bruno Gomes' take on the match, where a lack of consistency and a lack of goals is obviously hurting Newcastle United, and they need to turn it around. Will they turn it around? Is the question. Let's find out here on this evening show, Toon Tactics TV.
Brilliant from Sham. And now Murphy could take on the shot. Fabian Sham.
All right, folks. Where are you? I hope you, wherever you are, listening to today's video, do share in the comments where you are listening and how you're doing and how are you. What's your take on what's happening with Newcastle at the moment? We've kicked off the season. Obviously, the first 5 games, in my opinion, apart from the Wolves game, we didn't play as best as we could. We definitely didn't have the intensity that we had, but the results were getting us over the line. Now we are playing better, performances are better, generally speaking, but we're not being clinical, we're not scoring, we're not getting the results, and this is what is hurting us at the moment. When are we going to marry the two, performances and the game itself? So, guys, I want to share this with you. I watched a post-match interview with Bruno and Bruno Gomes, and I loved his take on the game when they asked him essentially, Bruno, what do you think is going wrong for Newcastle at the moment? Or what do you think is going wrong for Newcastle in this particular game in terms of Chelsea? And Bruno's first thing is obviously he's frustrated about the game, but he said consistency. And he was saying how for 20, 25 minutes in the first half, things we were good. But then the other 20 minutes we're not good, and we're we're vulnerable during these times. And the same thing happened in the second half. And when we're 20, 25 minutes, we're okay, we're good. And then the other 20 minutes, we're not good. And that's when we are very vulnerable. And um, the interview asked him what can help Newcastle to become more consistent, and he said goals. His simple answer to that was goals. He goes, when we're clinical, when we're scoring goals, it helps with our consistency, and this is what I mean. So this is the momentum, the attacking momentum taken from SofaScore. In green, you have Chelsea, and in blue, you have Newcastle United. And this is what maybe Bruno Gomes means by momentum. Now, I know there's other things that we can talk about, but I want to just narrow down on this, on what Bruno is saying. If you guys can see, I'm going to zoom in just a little bit more here. Obviously, the blues here, again, in Newcastle, should be in Chelsea. They're blue, aren't they? But fine, look. In the first 10, 15 minutes or whatnot, things are relatively okay-ish. Not perfect, but okay-ish. Neither team is overly budging. Nothing's going on too much. Now I can't remember. Now it doesn't show all the kind of chances and events and stuff like that. So I can't remember what all the big chances or what, because Newcastle had 3 big chances in this game they missed, and we know there's a few that were half chances that should have been chances that didn't happen either. I'll explore that in the preview of the next Chelsea game in the League Cup. But if you guys can look here, relative nothing's going on here, then bang, Chelsea score, and the attacking momentum for the next 10, 15 minutes is with Chelsea, and Newcastle are on the ropes looking very, very vulnerable. Newcastle managed to resist and hold them off, and then start to attack themselves, and they are awarded with a goal, the first open goal in about 3-4 games, 5 games maybe, which was really, really well done, really, really well taken. However, this is where the lack of consistency comes, and which is what Mr. Bruno Gomes is talking about. Newcastle don't capitalize further, and then eventually Chelsea take the momentum back in that first half. We managed to get to the break of that first half without conceding anything else. But then we kick off that first 90 seconds or so, and Newcastle, bang, concede again. And then for the next 20, 25 minutes, 15, 20 minutes, Chelsea are on the rise. And this is what makes Newcastle very, very vulnerable. We then obviously wrestle control back. And for large parts of the second half, Newcastle took over in terms of attacking momentum. Now, but with no goals. And we know there was that. I think we had at least two chances that were cleared off the line. I think all of our big chances were created by Lewis Hall, who was my man of the match. And obviously, we had that situation where Isak gets around for Fana, does really well to get around Sanchez, the goalkeeper. And for the life of me and everybody else that was watching that, he doesn't square it to Joe Linton, nor does he pass it to Longstaff, who was there. And as Howe put it, he ran out of space. Now, Howe was covering him there. He didn't pass the ball, and I forgot who the defender who came in. They tackled him, and it went off for a corner kick. And these were an increasing amount. This again, going back to what Bruno Gomes was saying, is these moments, is these stuff that is really, really, really hurting Newcastle United. Not taking their moments, not taking their goals, not taking their golden opportunities either. The other thing that's hurting Newcastle United is in terms of player consistency is you guys can see here on the stats as well. It's Lewis Hall that's in terms of sofa score, but I think in others, there's other Chelsea player. There's another Chelsea player that got higher than Lewis Hall, but Lewis Hall for Newcastle United performed really, really well, and so did Pope, and a couple, even though he didn't do well for the goal. But everybody else was just a little bit below average as well. And that didn't help Newcastle. I'm going to square on to Newcastle again in terms of performers. And again, I'm going to go onto Lewis Hall again. He's becoming increasingly important for Newcastle. Now, actually, before I go into that, I want to go into the team stats and just to kind of exemplify Newcastle's performance. There were very much 50-50% in terms of possession, 1.81 in terms of expected goals. We should have scored at least another goal. 1.61 for Chelsea. So, and that kind of is reflective that Newcastle had three big chances. Again, not taking our chances. Although our keeper had obviously the more saves to make, but we had chances cleared off the line twice by Reece James, and obviously that situation of Isak as well really, really hurt us. We did pass nearly the same amount of shots as gate passes as Chelsea, 459 to them, 450 to us. So again, 50%. It was a decent away performance to a really quality team. Total shots, they had the more shots on target, that they had the more, but we stayed in there, and you would see the same thing reflected in the ground duels. So this was a decent-ish, and in some parts, good performance from Newcastle United. Again, Lewis Hall touches 78, Bruno Gomes 77. We're going to see something from Lewis Hall as well in terms of his pass and how increasingly important he is to Newcastle United, where Hall, Bruno, and are becoming very, very important to us. Jules, we're going to go into the Jules. Again, with Jules are a reflection of how intensively are we playing. I think we were very close to Chelsea. Chelsea about 51%, us about 49%. So again, we're near enough kind of matching them in terms of intensity, in terms of working hard. But I think there's a lot of things that are hurting Newcastle, and obviously there's a lack of quality, particularly in my opinion, in terms of our centre backs. However, right, so Lewis Hall, Jules, 5 out of 9, really, really working hard. 2 out of 4 aerial duels as well, really working hard. And then Bruno Gomes, let me get who's doing there. Alexander Isak, 4 out of 12, but at least he's competing, got 12 there. 7 out of 10 for Bruno, 5 out of 9 for Hall, 3 out of 9, 8 for 9 for Barnes, 4 out of 8 for Joe Linton. So there's a lot of competition there. And that was decent. I thought Livramento had a decent-ish game as well, in my opinion. So there's a lot of things to take there from the game itself. I want to show something else before I close out the show. Now, this is the passing map, and this is going back to in terms of the consistency that Lewis Hall. This is Chelsea's passing, and you can see that average consistent. And what happened in the game is what me and BDB Dan were talking about was these key areas in terms of the left and right hand side of the midfield. Gusto coming in here, Palmer's here, but then you'll have Gusto. Where is Gusto on the other side, also coming in and creating overloads in that midfield area, really, really hurting Newcastle. in that area, and you can see those passing, the strong passing stats from Casado to Madueke, from Gusto to Madueke, really linking up well. Also from the either side, Paul Palmer was one of the goal scorers for that goal where Shah should have done work, should have just done a lot better for that. Cole Palmer to Neto. So these are the stuff that we already knew about, but they obviously happened. And so Newcastle were overran for periods of the game in that midfield area, though contested really, really well in terms of ground duels. Now, this is Newcastle's passing stats. And the thicker the lines, the better those passing stats that are going on. Now, obviously, the thicker the lines, you can see the approach play from Pope to that, from the defense, whether it's Dan Burn or Shaw, and then obviously to Lewis Hall and Livramento, who are the key men in passing and getting the ball over to midfield. And those are happening quite a lot. Livramento 17 times, Tonali, for instance, Burn getting the ball over to Bruno 13 times, as well as Hall getting the ball over to Joe Linton. So the ball coming into the midfield from the defense is okay. Obviously, the lines get thinner and thinner as they get to the last third of the pitch. Now, statistically, Newcastle went too far off in terms of final entries into the final third, and we're doing okay-ish. A lot of creativity, mainly between Bruno, or a lot of passing between Bruno and Isak, Joe Linton and Isak, Barnes and Isak as well, getting it over there, and Hall being very creative, getting the ball over to Barnes and Isak as well. The main gap and the main problem in terms of getting the ball into that final third is Tonali. If you can see here, Tonali's obviously receiving the ball from Livramento, he's receiving the ball from Shaw, he's receiving the ball from Gomeres, he's receiving the ball from Burn, and Joe Linton a little bit less so, but obviously they're not directly next to each other. But he is not getting the ball over to who was Almiron there at the time. He's not getting the ball over to Isak, and he was not getting the ball over to Barnes. I'm not sure what the reason for that is. Now, I know that Cole Palmer was on that side of the pitch, and Tonali may have been busy trying to hold him still, but I want to know what the lack of consistency in that passing, what the issue is there in terms of getting that ball over, getting Tonali involved in terms of creating towards the front three. He does that pretty well in general, but there's a lack of consistency that is there. Look, finally, I want to be able to say that I want to go back to the stats itself. The positives, obviously, is that Newcastle, Isak got himself a goal. We scored a goal from open play. Bruno continues to be consistent. Lewis Hall continues to be consistent. But my main concern is the lack of clinical edge. When I'm talking about clinical edge, sometimes that final pass, but now it really is the finishing. 3 big chances missed. That Isak not passing to Joe Linton for an easy tap in. The goal line clearances are fairly forgivable. Like we created it, we got it there. There was a Chelsea defender who happened to be, again, Reece James, a veteran who happened to be there on 2 occasions and doing really well. But it was that other Isak chance that really hurt us. Now, again, we'll go back to what Bruno was saying. Newcastle are vulnerable when teams are attacking, partly because of those transitions, partly because of, in this game in particular, we saw the goal against Fabian Schär, obviously, again, backing off Cole Palmer. He did the same thing against Brighton. I don't want to single him out, but there is that problem when Newcastle aren't scoring, when Newcastle are missing chances or not being or not on top. We are getting punished on the other end of the pitch. At the same time, there are times where Newcastle at the same time are doing well defensively, but are not putting that finishing touch on the other end. So something's got to give. Something's got to give for Newcastle United, and something's got to change. The main thing for now is that, as Bruno said, they've got to keep working hard. They've got to maintain being positive. They've got to maintain doing what they're doing. And they've got to get their big hitters like Tonali more into the game, getting that ball up there, shooting, and doing all that they can to get that clinical edge and that finishing touch at the other end to shift the momentum against the other teams, begin hurting teams with goals, and hopefully turning things around. We've got Chelsea again next in the League Cup. We've got a preview show coming up for that on Tuesday. So, guys, do look out for that. Until then, guys, take care. God bless, folks.
Oh, brilliant from Sham. And now Murphy could take on the shot.